let's get introduced to a concept of APIs. Okay, so API, as you know, or you might have heard a lot of the times, people talk about these APIs, right? So API is what does it stands for? It stands for Application Programming Interface. Okay, so the word interface, what is its interfacing? Okay, it is interfacing between the two major things. Okay, one is it acts as a middleware or as an interface between um, the web server and the clients, or the ones that are requesting for information or the data from the server. So it connects both the worlds. Like you saw JSON, right? JSON is doing what? It is storing the data, and also it is helping you to transport the data or send the data, receive the data, and all that. So application programming interface, it does the same part of providing you an interface between the web server and the application. Okay, so now let's understand what it is. So API, what it does, it's open up the application's data and functionality to the third party developers and partners. Okay, what it means is, you have an application. Suppose there is an application called as what it does, maybe a stock exchange. Okay, so the stock exchange like Nasdaq. Nasdaq is a bigger stock exchange in based out of United States, right? So now Nasdaq has got lots of these stocks. Okay, the company stocks and their tickers and their values associated with each individual stocks are frequently traded by the investors and the trading community over the Nasdaq. And now Nasdaq, with that, the main essence of that Nasdaq is it'll provide a platform for multiple traders to buy and sell the stocks. Okay, basically it's a stock exchange. So now, uh, that is an application. That is definitely a web application. Along with that, there are servers associated with it, mobile apps associated with it, web applications associated with it, and all that. And now, suppose as a trader and as someone like who provides a sharing, trading platform, right? There are multiple trading platforms. Like in India, we have Zerodha. In US, there is something called as Robinhood. What they provide you an application so that you can buy and sell the stocks over the internet. Okay, now in order for the applications like Robinhood or Zerodha's Kite and all, we need to have an access to the data of those Nasdaq. Okay, so now what Nasdaq does, Nasdaq will create these APIs, or what we call it as application programming interface, where anyone who has the authority, or some APIs are public, they are openly and freely available, you can use them. There are some paid services, there are some private services, all that. Okay, depending on how the company wants those APIs to be used by its business partners or the developers community, third party users. So now what these companies usually do is they utilize those APIs to get the information or the data from the Nasdaq servers and use them in order to use them on their individual platforms to buy and sell the stocks. All right. So what API does, it provides open up the application data and functionality to the third party developers and business partners or the departments within their companies. If it is very internal APIs, when we call it as within the companies. So now the for the programmer, you don't need to know how the API is implemented, rather how it is used, and what how we utilize the data and the functionality of the application is of more important in the APIs. Now let's take some examples of how an API works. API is a set of defined rules, okay, that explains how the computer or the application communicate with one another. Basically, APIs are kind of methods and properties associated with the APIs. They are defined and predefined by the some applications who have already developed these APIs. So what they do, they will provide an endpoints where any user can utilize those APIs in order to get an access. Let's take this example here. So suppose let's see this. Okay. Now what is this? This is a blockchain API. Okay, api.blockchain.com. What they will do, if you go to the Bitcoin and other things, right, you can go ahead and see, like for example, this is a blockchain.com. Okay, in the inside the blockchain.com, there is also something called as REST API. If you go ahead and see this documentation, it will lead you to this REST API page. Okay, now let me zoom in a bit to show you. Now, if you observe the base URL to be used for all the calls, these are the base URLs and these are the endpoints. What it means is these APIs have been developed, and these APIs can be accessed using this base URL. Okay, like api.blockchain.com, a v3 version and exchange. And in front of these are the some of the endpoints that we can use. Like for example, tickers. Tickers is basically for getting the prices. Okay, let's see this. Let's see this example. Okay, if I copy this URL, and you need to go to a website called Hoppscotch.io. Okay, what this will do, this will help you to read and send the request, get request to the APIs, and that APIs will share you those details. Like for example, if I go ahead and use this API, what is this? api.blockchain.com. This is the base URL. And if I need to go further and see to these endpoints, like for this base URL, I want to see the tickers. Tickers is basically the prices associated with it. And if I go there and just type tickers, okay, and send the request. What kind of a request? It is a GET request, not the post. Post is not needed because we are just reading from that server. And if I send the request, so what it will give, it will send me the data in this format. Okay, what are this format? If you observe very meticulously, this is nothing but your JSON file. Okay, open the curly brackets, there is a key and then there is a value, there is a key and value pairing. If I put it in a proper format rather than a raw format, you will be able to see how this looks. Okay, let me zoom it a bit and show you. If you observe here, okay, this is how it looks. There is a symbol which is calling as T-Fuel USDC, and the price for 24 hours is 0.05244 US dollars. Okay. In the same way, there are a lot of tickers. Tickers is nothing but these are the blockchains that are there and the prices that have been traded and what kind of volume is being traded in the last 24 hours. Okay. That information you can get using this API. So, what is it that we are doing here? This website, which is called as blockchain.com, has created the APIs. What kind of an APIs? And those APIs are accessed using this base URL and whatever the information that you want to find on. Like for example, tickers, prices. If you want to see only symbols, or which means what are the different kinds of blockchains that have been traded, and fees and all that, orders, how many of them. You can get all this information available to you through blockchain.com free of cost. Okay, this is available publicly, but there are certain APIs that are released by the certain community of developers through individual companies where they charge. Like for example, weather APIs. Some API is called AccuWeather. Okay, AccuWeather. If I go AccuWeather API. Okay, so if I go to the AccuWeather API, what they will do? Okay, now this API would AccuWeather. What they will do? They will make you available the weather information by charging them. Okay, so you can go ahead and use these APIs, but there is a certain charge associated because they are giving certain packages. Like if you see packages and pricing, some of them have been kept free, like for location, current condition, you can get it for free. But there are certain things that they are charging like $25 per month, $250 per month. So what they are doing, they are making the data available to the users, but they are charging for that data. Okay, did you guys understand this? Which means using the APIs, they are allowing an access to their server with the data stored on their server, but by charging you a certain amount of money for them. Okay, so that is the basically the power of APIs. Now, not only this AccuWeather, there are a lot of, I mean, almost all the companies, like even the Facebook or Google or Twitter, all they have developed APIs as well. Like mytrip.com, let's say this one. Now I want to personal login. So now what you see here, right? What is that? Here is a biz account. Here is what I see. Either you can enter your mobile number and log in, or you can sign in with Google. So this is a API provided by Google. So what this is doing, Make My Trip is utilizing the Google API for login. Okay, so this is also a service being utilized by a lot of companies where they have created APIs for login, like Facebook, Twitter. You All these social media companies will help you to provide those login authentication using these APIs as well. Okay, which is application programming interfaces. And now let's go back to our example here, what we saw, the tickers. And then when I go ahead and request, the status is 0, 200, which is HTTP request status is 200, is okay. Okay, is okay. And now this is all the information that you have got for each symbol. Each symbol is like each blockchain. This is for each blockchain. I can go ahead and see what is that. Let's say, let me find something here. B, C. Go ahead and so so now BTC is this is BTC is a blockchain. Okay, now this BTC stands for Bitcoin USD, which is currently traded at 16,900 $47. Now if I go ahead and see uh, Bitcoin value currently, so it is almost it is showing in Indian rupees, value in USD. Let's see. Yeah, it is almost like 16,964, right? Which is currently traded at. It's the same thing. It's the same thing that we are getting it from here. So a symbol is BTC. BTC stands for Bitcoin, which is in USD. It is 16,947 US dollars. In the last 24 hours, this is the volume traded, and last traded price is this one. Okay. So this is one entry, or one object, or a one element or object within this particular JSON file. So JSON file starts here. So now if you see, this file is in an array format. It is an array of objects. Okay, so the array containing individual objects. Now I can utilize this and get the information, like what I can do here. Copy this and go ahead and store this information. Maybe I'll say, just a second, where is that file? Yeah, I'll send this request once again. And once I send this, I'll just go ahead and copy this entire file. And maybe what I'll do is I'll create this blockchain.json. Okay, and I'll paste this. So what it contains, it is an array, because JSON can be an array or object, right? That we saw in JavaScript. Again, it is an array starting with square brackets, and each individual element is what is an object. Okay, now I can go ahead and utilize that in my JSON file. I can go ahead and parse that, or I can use this file to say, get that information. I can reference here to a blockchain, whatever the file that I have created, blockchain.json, and get that information using XHR. Okay, that I can go ahead and do that very easily. So that shouldn't be a problem. So ultimately, what I'm getting it using the API base URL and the endpoints. This is an endpoint. I can use the get request, and then that would return me a data in a certain format. This format is a JSON format. So this JSON format, I can use this file and get the information that I needed from this API. Okay, like it is just one example. There are multiple examples. Like I say, AccuWeather, this also has got certain APIs. Like for example, location API. And if I see here, this is the URL. Okay, for the admin area. And if I go here, this is the URL that I can utilize, and I need to give the region code. If you go here and type it, you go ahead and send it. Currently, it is not. It is showing 401, which is unauthorized. I don't have access to it. But if you have a paid service and all that, right, you can go ahead and get an access to that paid service, and then give your right credentials. They will be providing you the key when you register for them, and then you can utilize these API based URLs along with these endpoints like location key or location key here. Sometimes you need to search, sometimes you have a country code and admin code, and all these are nothing but the way you can utilize these APIs developed by AccuWeather. And those APIs, sometimes they are free, sometimes they are charged, depending on the company that is providing you the data uh, for your through APIs. Okay, understood this one?
Sir, each and every website has a different base URL to access that API, sir.
Correct, correct, absolutely. Because ultimately, AccuWeather is a company that is generating that data. Okay, they have a certain technology so that they create and store the accurate weather conditions for each individual latitude and longitude throughout the world. Okay, and because of that effort they have done, they are storing that data, and because of that data, they are sharing that data to the world for a certain cost. Okay, and this base, to your question, this base URL is developed by the AccuWeather. So it is up to them how they decide this. Instead of data service, they would have given ds.accuweather. Okay, it is something that their developers have developed it, and they have provided this information to you, and you can utilize those information.
O-
Okay,
Okay, okay,
so this is one base URL. Like, you can go ahead, see API key is there if it is required, because without this API key, you cannot access it if it is a paid service. And if it is
okay.
not a paid service, sometimes it will be freely available, like we saw the case in Bitcoin, right? This blockchain, where is it? Yeah, you saw that blockchain.com. This is a freely available information, so you don't need a key for that. Okay,
Okay,
and there is also like Swappy is again one more Star Wars API. You can go ahead and get this API. Like, Star Wars is a movie, right? It's a lot of movie franchise.
yeah.
Yeah,
So there is kind of a genre in this also, like
yeah.
to create the API. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. You can create API for any website. You can, and creating an API is again a different, I mean, different set of skills that you would require. But now the scope of this learning is how to utilize that APIs,
Okay.
how to read
Okay.
that APIs and get the information from that APIs and use that APIs in your website. And now how you create that API is again a different technology skills that you require. Okay, that
Okay.
would require more of a back-end programming and everything. All right.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, but this is because every not every company stores the data in a JSON format. Some companies directly, most of the companies, 99.99% of the companies store the data in the databases. Now you need to read the databases, extract that information and put that into a JSON file, and make those JSON files readily available for your API whenever they get a request. So all that need to be done behind the scene. But now our scope here is to see if a API exists and the base URL is there and the endpoints are known, and how we can utilize those APIs in order to get this information in a JSON format and use this information in order to utilize them in our website.
Okay, sir.
Okay, that is what we are trying to learn here. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now what you understood is you need to get the URL, whatever the API base URL,
Yes.
and then once you get the base URL, you are going to do what? So now you are going to, yeah. So this won't work. Let's say if this works. Not sure. Yeah, this also 404 not found. Maybe they have not utilized. Let's say if the planet exists. I'm going to use this planet. Let's see. Yeah, maybe the API is not up and running, so that is the reason they have. We are getting this error 404 not found. Okay, so usually like this case we saw that, right, where it is for a blockchain. One example we saw. Again, that is a good example for us to utilize that. Even some of the Nasdaq also has got, I guess. Let's see, Nasdaq API. This is a, yeah, this is a Nasdaq link. Hmm. So API futures, and yeah, this is a JSON format. You can go ahead and utilize this API. If I go ahead and send a request to this, oh yeah, this has given me a certain data. Okay, this is again a Nasdaq API. So what it has given me, a data set of OPEC. OPEC is a oil price. Okay, for the oil price, it has given me the daily limit and all the values, the data. And this data is like what, from 11, 12, 11, 11. Yeah, for the date wise, they have given me the value for the crude oil. Okay, again, this is still a JSON file. Okay, this is still a JSON file that is giving me what, OPEC, which is oil and petroleum, right? So the OPEC crude oil price. All right. So in the same way, there are a lot of things that you can go ahead and utilize those readily available APIs. Even in XML format, it is making you available. One is the JSON format, another is this XML format. If I go ahead and find this, right? Oh, Hopscotch. Yeah, this is an XML format. If you observe here, okay. So there is a data set ID is there. Yeah, this is data set code ORB close. All different nodes are there, and the same information is available, but in the XML format. Okay. So depending on how the company has made the information available, this data is available through Nasdaq, and Nasdaq has got these APIs. All right, you can go ahead and utilize them, and there are a lot of things they charge as well. Okay, using Python, using Excel, you have a R programming language and other things. So all this information would be there whenever you go and search the individual company's APIs. Okay, even like for example, let's say Twitter API. Twitter also has got its own set of API documentation. If I go here, so let's say migrate to Twitter, how to build the Twitter. Let's say a lot of information existing here. You need to go ahead and see what information that you wanted to get. So all that developer related information in regard to the API will be made available to you. And using these properties, you can go ahead and access the APIs associated with Twitter without even logging in. You can use the APIs directly to tweet. Okay, without even logging to their platform, nothing behind the scene, you can push the data directly to the backend servers using the APIs rather than going to the front end, logging in everything. Okay, you don't need that. So some companies use these kind of APIs to do all kinds of research or trending the act, how what is trending on Twitter and everything, right? Behind the scene, they'll utilize that data, and that data is obviously chargeable, right? You charge for the usage. Okay, so build for business, build for public. You learn and teach, build for good, build for fun. So all those different kinds of use cases have been created, like build for public. Okay, so so you can go ahead and utilize that data information in order to impact for the better good and all that. All right, so just in a net, what I'm trying to say is a lot of companies have these days created the API. The main reason is to make their data available to the public, either for free of cost or by charging them. So they are using data as a service. They are using the data of their company for a certain amount of money so that they generate revenue out of it. So that is one of the use cases of uses of APIs. Let's see, understand that. Okay, now how does an API works? What we saw is whenever a client requests an application, an API call will be initiated, and that would be requesting the information information. After receiving the valid information, API calls the external program or the server. Okay, like for example, I am in our case, Zerodha will access API would be called through Zerodha or the Robinhood online trading platforms, and they in turn would generate an API to call to the external web server of the Nasdaq. And now Nasdaq sends the response back to the API, and that API would data would be transferred back to the Robinhood or a Zerodha account. Okay, so that is how the API works. It's kind of an interface between the data applications, data functionality, and the third party developers or the one who want to utilize that data. Now, why would we need API? Obviously, improved collaborations. Like what has been observed is an average organization or an enterprises uses 1,200 cloud applications. Okay, different cloud applications are utilized. Like for example, if it is a Microsoft.com, or for that matter, if it is a Chubb.com, which is the largest private insurance company. So these companies utilize lot of third-party applications. Okay, so these applications can be accessed through API. Okay, API enables that integration of those applications. You get a request response from those applications, and they utilize that APIs for improved collaboration. And next is easier innovations, like offers the flexibility to the companies to connect with new business partners and engage with them, and also build a new market and access those market and drive the digital transformation. Basically, it will drive the innovation in the company. If you get integrated with multiple companies, then obviously it becomes like more ingrained in you, and you can utilize those aspects, and also help you to reach newer markets. And also monetization, so your data can be used, like some companies utilize their data and they will be making that data to generate a revenue. Okay, so that is when you use data for monetization. Okay, and then for added security, instead of giving your entire database available to the third party companies, what you can do, you can give a certain set of APIs, tell them these are the APIs you can use for accessing certain information. In that way, you improve the security as well. Rather than attacking your database itself, these APIs are much safer. Okay, and everything can be authenticated. You provide the security encryption, and those are a better and safer way to share your database information to the third parties. Okay, so that is the main purpose of these APIs. And some of the common, like I said, right, common examples, universal logins, like you can log in through Facebook page or a Twitter account or Google account, like we saw in Make My Trip, right? It was making you available through Google. You can log in through Google account. And the third party payment processing systems, like you can also allow the people to use, like if you are logging into amazon.com. Okay, now you have purchased certain set of goods and you want to pay through an UPI. Okay, so whether it is Amazon Pay or Google Pay or a Phone Pay. Okay, and now those payment gateways are kind of an interface between the Amazon and the third party payment service providers, and they will provide these APIs to it. So Amazon goes ahead and builds those API, utilize those APIs and add them in their platform, so that that linking with the third party happens very easily. Okay, there is also a third party API comes into picture. And suppose there is also a travel booking websites, right? Like Make My Trip, or for that matter any other insurance booking like Policy Bazaar, where you go ahead and say I want to generate a policy for a insurance policy for for a car. Okay, now there are many vendors that are there are many companies that are tied up with that insurance aggregator, so they will pick the best and the cheapest possible insurance company that provides the premium for you cheapest. There might be Bajaj Allianz, ICICI, Lombard, and all that companies. In that, let's say the top Echo is a company that provides the cheapest insurance for you. All those integrations will happen through the APIs. Okay, that API will read the database and check the relevant information and put you on the web page at a very readily available at a kind of an aggregators. Okay, travel aggregators or insurance aggregators or different kinds of aggregators. And then there is a Google Map API. So whenever you want your website to show a Google Map or a location, then you utilize the Google Map services, and they have an API. You can just utilize those API and show it on your web page. Okay, this is where my office is, and the path to my office is like this. Okay, then that integration is happening because of the usage of the API provided by Google, that is a Google Map service. Okay, so again, Twitter also has got many. One example of the social media is being given here, but not only limited to Twitter. Like all the social media companies nowadays have these APIs built in. All right. So did you guys understand this? Why is this we are using these APIs?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and now APIs also has got different types in it. Okay, so what APIs are we talking about? Most of the times it is a web API. Okay, and there is also a browser API, there is a server API, all that exists, but 99% of the time it is called as a web API. What are the different types of APIs? One is open API. As the name itself suggests, it is a open source or public APIs. So the API that can access with the HTTP protocol, and it is free. Okay, it is freely available. Just use that base URL or the endpoints, and you will be able to retrieve the information, get the information from that API service provider, whatever the information you need free of cost. Those are called public APIs or open APIs. Another is partner APIs. What, as the name itself suggests, you have a certain business. Like for example, in our case, Amazon is a business that is running e-commerce in India. Now the third party is like a payment service providers, like there might be a I said, right, UPI kind of. Those are the partners. Those are the payment partners of Amazon, and they provide those services. So this is called a partner APIs. All right. And the next is the internal API. Like for an organization like a huge Amazon.com, they have a huge, it's a huge organization. A lot of internal departments are there. There is a HR department, the technology department, there is a customer care department, there is a delivery department, logistic departments, all that. And they need to interact, and they have their own individual applications or the web pages or websites or mobile apps, and they need to communicate with one another. Okay, and how does that happen? You can utilize something called as internal APIs, which is very internal to the organization. Okay, and is hidden from the external users. So only the internal employees can utilize those APIs to get the information between the organization, within the organization. Okay, and these are called as internal APIs, which are hidden from the external users. And a composite APIs is a combination, okay, multiple data or service APIs, as the name itself suggests. So it is a combination of public, private, and also the internal and all that. Okay, so that is about majorly in related to APIs. So one tool that I would suggest is a Hoppscotch. This is basically a testing tool. Okay, Hoppscotch, and another is called Postman. And Hoppscotch is readily, without signing in, you can go ahead and select the method and access the base URL of the API and then the endpoints, and then you will be able to get that request and the file that you generate out of it. Okay, and the same thing can also be done in postman.com, but you need to log in first. Okay, you can get a sign up for free, you can get a free account, you can do all that using this, and you can download a desktop version of it and utilize them on your desktop as well. That also can be done. It's the similar only. If you can see here, it is a get, and you put a URL and you get the details, params, or if you send any parameters to it, you will get that, and you generate a entire JSON or XML or whatever the data format that your API is sending you. Okay, and one example that I want you to utilize is go ahead and see this blockchain.com, api.blockchain.com, and you try to run over this get and everything, and you will be able to see what kind of information you are able to retrieve it.